Crazy Shamel is going quick start crazy with an incredible selection of ethnicities. We've got German, we've got Irish, we've got African, we've got Italian. We don't have them all, but we have more than ever before. Ethnic genealogy, where the quick starts are insane. Do you know where your peeps came from before becoming Americanized? Today we're going to do 4 quick starts in one episode: German, Irish, African, and Italian. Now, is it possible that I could have a connection to all of these ethnicities? I'm an American, so of course. African, well, look at me. Italian, I'm a Jersey girl, enough said. German, Hefeweizen was my first brewmans. Irish, well, the shady side of DNA testing tells me that I'm 2% Irish. Can I tell Irish jokes now? Too soon? So how on earth do you research the ethnic side of you? As usual, you always want to start with a question. Then you want to use my quick start. Now let's meet our guest. So guys, thank you so much for being here today. So tell us how you got started in genealogy. Jim?
Well, I was helping my mother write a church history book. I took a trip down to the church's old graveyard, and I really never came back.
Casey, how'd you get started?
I got started in 1987 when my father had a heart transplant. And I knew then at that time that if I didn't get my genealogy done, I'll never get it done and lose the stories.
Common issue. Dean?
I was helping my sister-in-law also in the 1980s, and I was putting names in a computer database, and I realized, hey, I can do this myself, and then I was hooked.
Julie, how'd you get started?
Well, my birth father and I, we used to work on genealogy together.
Oh, I love that. So there, for all of these different ethnicities, there are different common questions. What are some of the common questions that German researchers might ask?
Well, far and away, the number one is, what is the village of origin in Europe?
Okay. And to get to that, the best thing to do is?
Search every conceivable American record for some mention of the village.
Common Irish question?
Where in Ireland is my family from? How do I find it? Where do I start looking?
And the answer to that is?
Search every record that
You
you
mean
can
you have
find.
to look at all the records?
You do, you do.
So Dean, what are some common questions that African American researchers will ask?
Well, definitely, who was the slave owner? Because we're descendants of slaves in a lot of cases.
Definitely. And Julie, Italian researchers?
Do I have to go to Italy to find records?
Please say yes.
Yes. No.
So you can get those records here, and we're going to definitely show them how to do that today. So there's lots of myths out there, so let's bust some myths right now. So what's a common German research myth?
Well, a lot of people think that you have to be fluent in the German language to access and use German records.
And
heck no!
What's an Irish myth with research?
Basically, which Patrick Kelly and which Mary Murphy is my Mary Murphy, and where do I find them in Ireland?
And we're going to show them some tips to do
We
that.
We are.
Dean, myth for African American researchers.
In a lot of cases, people think because they had straight hair in their family, they must be descendants of Native Americans. So they want
Definitely
to go
couldn't
there.
be European,
Couldn't
right?
be European.
Definitely couldn't be. Julie, what about Italians? What are some myths that Italians suffer under?
The immigration officer changed my family's name.
That's a myth? That's not true?
No, it's more of a phonetic issue on who's writing information down.
Okay. So we've busted some myths, and now it's time for not 1, but 4 quick starts. So let's go ahead and get started with the first quick start. So let's start with the German genealogy quick start. So you ready, Jim?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
So let's start with step 1, which is to do U.S. research. So what do we have here?
What we have here is a petition for naturalization for Heinrich Hiller.
So this looks different than I normally see it. It's normally kind of like in that template. So what is great genealogically in this document?
Well, it gives his ship arrival information and also gives us his signature.
So what's so important about a signature?
Well, especially when you have a common name, that way you can determine which is the right Henrik or Henry Hiller.
Exactly, that makes sense. Pretty cool. And this is from 1838?
Right, right. And those early ones aren't in a template, they're more freeform.
Okay, so that's step one. Let's go to step two, which is to do special U.S. research. So what do you have for us here?
Well, there's a real wealth of German language newspapers in the United States. And this is an example of one from the area of where Henrik settled in Berks County, Pennsylvania. And he's listed as one of the people who needs to pick up a letter at the Reading Post Office in 1844, and therefore locating him in Reading at that time.
And so these newspapers would be similar to what we would look at. You'd find marriages possibly in there, obituaries,
Yes,
etc.
yes, absolutely.
And where do you get these?
Well, this one's right on Chronicling America, a free site of the Library of Congress, but there are also for pay sites like newspapers.com and also Genealogy Bank.
Fantastic. So let's move on to step three, which is to review records for bridge information. So first, what is a bridge? What do I mean when I say bridge?
The bridge is the record that helps you find the origin across the water, across the Atlantic, across the pond.
So it's like that pond jumper. It's
The
that
pond
thing that gets you
jumper.
across the pond.
Exactly.
So what is this that we have? Well, we know this is a tombstone. How does this tombstone jump the pond for you?
Well, Heinrich Hiller's tombstone has his actual village of origin in Württemberg listed. It says he was born in Motzingen in the Kingdom of Württemberg.
And that's the village?
Yes.
Is this common for Germans to put their birth location on their tombstones?
Well, it's sure not as common as we'd like it to be, but it's always something that you should check.
That's impressive. So let's move on to step four, which is to search special records outside of the U.S. So what do you have for us in Germany, in German records?
Well, there's a great mega site called Genealogy.net that's based in Germany. It has many different features to it, and one of the features are family history books, village history books called Ortssippenbucher.
Ortssippenbuchers. Okay, say that 5 times. Okay, go ahead.
and these Ortssippenbucher, a prominent genealogist or historian, has compiled all the records from the village and put them into family groups.
So this looks like a family tree.
Yep, that's what it is.
So this is fantastic. And I noticed that Google has it allows you to translate too if you needed to.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't need to know German. I could just Google it.
Heck no.
So genealogy.net seems to be a mega site for is there more on here than these Ortssippenbuchers?
Yes, there certainly is. There's a electronic village finding gazetteer. There are many family trees. They have a project going to document all German tombstones. So yeah, there's loads of different features to this site, and it's all free.
Fantastic. That was great, Jim.
Thank you, Shamel.
So that was the German quick start. Let's review. Step 1, do general U.S. research. Step 2, search special U.S. created collections. Step 3, review records for bridge information. And step 4, search special records outside of the U.S. So now we're going to do the Italian quick start. How are you, Julie?
Good. How are you, Shamel?
I'm good. Thanks for being here today. So let's go through the steps, which will be similar to what we did with German, but different records. So let's do step 1, which is to do U.S. research. So what do you have here?
So right here we have a World War I draft record for Giuseppe Di Dio.
Okay, and what's the special genealogical value? I can see it right here. It just looks great. Tell me what I see here.
Well, it has his birthday. It has the town where he was born.
Is
in
that
Italy.
this right here?
Castrogiovanni.
Castrogiovanni, okay, and that's the village. That's the thing that everyone wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it also has a signature on the bottom.
There we go with the signature. This is a record that I say that everyone, it's almost like census, everyone should do this. If you have a person that was of age, they should look at the World War I draft record. Great, so that's step 1. Let's do step 2, which is to search special U.S. collections. So what is this that we have here?
This is a record that is an alien record from...
So wait a minute. This is not an Italian, this is a German. Did Jim talk you into putting this German in here?
Probably. No.
So tell us what this record is.
So this is an alien record, and you can go on NARA and pull up the names in their index, and you can send away for the records.
So this isn't one, unlike the other documents, this isn't one that we can get online. You have to order it.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the genealogical value here?
So this has his birth,
Okay.
his birth date,
So he was born in 1875.
yep, his location,
And
where
his
he was born.
location, that village again.
Yep. And what's really amazing on here is it has the port of entry of New York, the date that he
Fantastic.
arrived, and the ship.
1912.
Yep.
Did they change his name?
Not on this one. plenty that were changed up.
That's great. So this is an alien registration. So let's move on to step 3, which is to review records for bridge information. So what is it that we have here?
So this is immigration passenger list, and
This is
it's-
like the Ellis Island things everyone
Yeah.
thinks about. Okay.
Yeah, and they're pre-printed, and they're this one is for Elisabetta and Caterina Biscardi.
And how are they related?
Caterina is my second great grandmother.
Okay, and how is she related to Elisabetta?
They are sisters.
Okay, and what's genealogical great about this?
So what's great about this is it actually gives the town where they're from, Villafrati,
Villafrate, okay.
and it also has their father's name, Salvatore Biscardi.
Salvatore. So in one record you get the village and you get another generation. That's fantastic. So that's great bridge information, which you can then use for step 4, which is to search special records outside of the U.S. So what is this that we have here?
So this is a birth record
And who's this birth record for?
for Salvatore Biscardi,
Okay.
Elisabetta and Caterina's father.
And you didn't have to go to Italy to get this?
I did not have to go to Italy to get this.
But it's kind of hard to read.
It is.
So this is a birth record. It has the general stuff like parentage and stuff like that. I think you had
Yeah.
told me on here it actually says what his occupation and stuff
Yeah,
is.
it has the mother's name, the father's name, and it has the father's occupation of muratore, which is a mortar bricklayer.
Oh, I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
I thought
No.
okay.
Oh, maybe I said that wrong. No, muratore.
So that's step 4, but to help us with step 4, you have a great suggestion.
Yeah, Family Search has a wiki, and you can go to the wiki and pull up Italy, and you'll get a great help guide that has numbers spelled out and names of months and common information that you'll find in Italian records.
Fantastic. So you can come here, you can kind of use that to look at the templates on the record to try to kind of figure out what it's telling you.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was great.
thank you.
For immigrant ancestors, the quick start is the same, just different examples. Step 1, do general U.S. research. Step 2, search special U.S. created collections. Step 3, review records for bridge information. Step 4, search special records created outside of the U.S. For each step, you're gathering lots of records. So now we're going to do the quick start, but with an Irish flavor. Are you ready, Casey?
I am, Jamel. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So let's start with step 1,
Okay.
which is to do general U.S. research. So what
Right.
do you have for us here?
What we have here tonight is Rhode Island city directories. Many major cities in the United States have city directories. Here in Philadelphia, they go back to the 1700s.
So what's a city directory? Do we still have those today?
We do. There are still some places that have city directories. What it is, it's a precursor to phone books.
Oh.
So what happens is that people are listed in there with their occupation and their street address.
I love that. And so what's great of genealogical value here?
A couple of things. First, we have the name of the people. At the top, we have Patrick Goodwin. He
Okay.
lives in a house. He's a molder, which is a type of woodworker.
Oh, I was going to say, what's a molder? Like
Yeah, molder.
from
Yeah, you think
okay.
it's, yeah, right, exactly. But anyways, he lives at 18 South Bend. But what's really fascinating with sometimes with city directories, you can see when people move out of the town or where they're living. So the page before this shows my Ellen McGuigan, but if you go a couple lines down on this one, you see Goodwin, see also McGuigan.
McGuigan, what's that?
Yeah.
I'm new to Irish, so I don't know what's going on
We'll
here.
get you straight here, girlfriend.
So why is this in here like this?
Because sometimes when the Irish came over from Ireland, they had a name change, and this is a sample of a name change.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So let's move on to step 2.
Okay.
Which is to search special U.S. records.
Correct.
And what do we have here?
Well, what we have here is a death record from Massachusetts. A lot of death records after 1900 are a standard form, and this is a standard form for the state of Massachusetts. But who we have here is Maria Ball, and she is the daughter of my Ellen Goodwin, or McGuigan.
McGuigan, okay.
Yes.
And so it gives us all this info. I love death certificates.
They're great.
It gives you their spouse, their age, when they were born.
Yes.
It gives where she was born in Ireland.
Exactly. So this is important when you're doing Irish research to check
Yes.
everybody, and I mean
Yes.
everybody. And notice in this case, we have the name of her father, Patrick McGuigan.
Instead of
Right, McGuigan.
Goodwin too.
Instead of Goodwin.
Okay.
And then we have her mother's name is Ellen Conley. And
that female maiden name.
Yes, exactly. But look right above Patrick's name, you'll see the place and location of where she was born.
That's great.
Yes.
So let's move on to step 3.
Okay.
Which is to review records for bridge information.
Correct.
So let's take a look at, sorry guys. Let's take a look at this. This is what I'm used to seeing. So tell me about this.
Okay, this is a naturalization or declaration of intention for
Okay.
Thomas Campbell. He is the nephew of Maria. So if you couldn't find a death record, it's always advisable to go to see a naturalization record.
Sure.
And this one right here shows Thomas. He was born in County Louth, and his address of where he's living, a physical description.
Nice.
Yes, and also gives you when he came into New York, but he doesn't know the name of his boat.
Right,
So-
right. I've never seen that before. Never, no name forgotten. And then we have the signatures again.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool. So that's step 3. Let's move on to step 4, which is to search special records outside of the U.S. So we're going to Ireland now.
We are. We're going to
Yay,
Ireland.
We're going to
Woohoo!
Ireland.
We're going to do our Irish jig.
Wow, what is this?
This is in Ireland, from Ireland. It's a Catholic parish record from County Louth.
Okay.
And right there at the bottom, number 25, is Catherine McGuigan. That's my second great grandmother.
Okay.
And it gives the name of her parents, Pat and Helen Conlon. Notice it doesn't give his last name, but it gives her last name. It's Colin, and her first name is Helen. So sometimes with Irish, they even change the first names as well.
Okay, fascinating. And you said, what's this down here in this? We always want to know what we can't see.
Exactly.
What's that down there?
Well, right after their names, you'll see a sponsor name. And this is the name of the godmother in this case.
Okay.
And right after that, the street that they lived on.
street.
And street address.
Wow. So this is an Irish Catholic parish record, and this you got on Ancestry.
I got this on Ancestry, but the records themselves are available through the National Library of Ireland.
So let's check that out. That's the website that you'd like to
Right.
highlight. So this is the National Library of Ireland.
Correct. And they have all of these parish records up online for people to look at.
And these are free, whereas
They're free.
Ancestry is not.
Exactly. Unless you go to the library.
Unless you go to the
Right,
library.
right.
But no, this is great. So people can access this at home.
Exactly.
Fantastic, Casey. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
this.
You're welcome.
So that is the quick start with the Irish twist. Let's review. Step 1, do general U.S. research. Step 2, search special U.S. created collections. Step 3, review records for bridge information. And Step 4, search special records outside of the U.S. Remember, each step is just one of many examples. Let's now move over and do the quick start with an African twist. How are you, Dean?
I'm good, Jamel. How are you?
I'm good. So let's go ahead and do the quick start with African researchers. And step 1 is to do U.S. research.
Exactly. We're trying to figure out who the slave owner was.
Okay.
I suggest going to the time, first and last name in 1870.
So 1870 is key for African
That's
Americans.
key.
You want to get your ancestors in 1870.
Right, and you're going to try to find some other slave owners, potential slave owners in the same proximity.
So who do we have here?
Here we have Anna Rambo, who is a distant relative of mine, and a couple pages later you'll actually find a Drury Rambo, who we found out in the family through research actually owned Adam Rambo, and in this case it actually shows that he was in proximity in the census.
So this is something that talked about.
Exactly.
Where you find your person in 1870, you go a few pages forward and a few pages backwards and list all the people who could possibly have been owners.
Exactly.
So that's what you did here, and it actually showed that he was living right near who owned him.
Actually, a cousin did that research,
Cousin
but
did
yes.
it. That's nice of you to do the attribution. So let's move on to step 2,
Sure.
which is to search special U.S. collections.
So one of the things that the government tried to do after emancipation was they aid the freed slaves. So one of the things they set up was Freedmen's Bureau. And Freedmen's Bureau helped the freed slaves with a lot of things, but one of the things you could do for the first time is have your marriage recognized.
Because it was illegal.
It was illegal in a lot of cases. So some people have been married for quite some time.
And what do we have here?
Here we have a record of Harrison and Annie Howard. They were actually married, quote unquote, in 1845.
Slaves.
Slaves, exactly.
So this is proof of a slave marriage that has been going on since 1845.
But now could be
Wow.
recognized.
And I mean, the genealogical value just slaps you on the head with this record, right?
Exactly.
List the children, list their ages, lots of great information.
Exactly.
So let's move on to step 3,
Okay.
which is to search for bridge information. So for African American researcher, bridge information is different. Can you explain?
Yeah, we're not going to be able to figure out exactly where they came from in Africa, but we want to try to find out more information since they were freed. So one place you might go is the Freedmen's Bank. That's a little bit different. That's for the freed slaves to be able to set up a bank account for the first time. Others could as well.
Okay.
But in this particular record, we're looking at Robert Hamilton. That has all kinds of details in there.
Yes.
It shows where he was born, where he grew up. You can see he grew up on a plantation is listed there. But what's really interesting about this record too, he actually lists his siblings further down the page, and he actually has one that was living in Philadelphia.
Wow. So when we think about this as being bridge information, we're thinking that he's living on this plantation, so that might be a possible owner there.
Possible.
Great, so let's move on to step 4, which is to search records documenting the enslaved or free people of color. So what do we have here?
So the record I have here is a record actually of my third great grandmother. We believe this to be her. This is a certificate of freedom that actually showed that she was freed. But in that record, it also shows when she was manumitted or freed by who apparently was her owner.
Okay, Henry Downs, so we think that might have been her owner.
That's what we suspect.
That's fantastic. So one thing we didn't talk about when we talked about the Freedmen is this cool website that they have for the Freedmen's Bureau. Can you talk about that quickly?
Yeah, so the Freedmen's Bureau has a website called Discovering Freedmen, and it's tied in with Family Search, which is a very popular website as well. And it's a front end. You can put in the names. It'll search both of those databases I talked about already, Freedmen's Bank and Freedmen's Bureau.
The Bureau.
Correct.
Great. So can you suggest another website for African Americans?
Yeah, if you're really trying to find out more about the slave owner, there's a new website out called the Beyond Kin Project. If you go to that, slave owners or descendants of slave owners can put in information about slaves that their ancestors may have had, and also descendants of slaves can put in information and match up.
So it's kind of coming together.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So Dean, that was great for the African American Quick Start. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
If your African ancestor was an immigrant, use the other quick starts. Step 1, do general U.S. research. Looking for slaves is not the first step, so use traditional methods. 2, search U.S. created collections. 3, review records for bridge information. And 4, search records documenting the enslaved or free people of color. Wow, we did it! 4 quick starts! So guys, let's go a little bit deeper, and if you guys can give us one more final tip. Jim?
Well, Germans are anal retentive. The records are there if you want to find them.
And Jim, you have written some interesting stuff that people would use for their research. What are they?
Well, I've written 2 books on German genealogy and also one on historical newspapers.
Great, great, great books. Casey.
2 tips. Number 1, do your homework here. There's a lot of records here you need to do. Number 2, use FAN, which is family, associates, and neighbors.
That fan club.
That fan club makes a huge difference and a big difference in doing Irish research.
Fantastic. Dean?
I would say find a local African American focused genealogy group. There's lots of people trying to break the same brick walls that you are.
Join a group. Oh my gosh, yes. Julie.
And I think that you should transcribe every document that you get, just to pull out every piece of information that you can.
Instead of transcribing that record every single time you look at it.
Instead-
I
yeah.
do that. I transcribe the same record every month, but I'm going to stop because Julie gave me a tip. Transcribe those records. Fantastic. So those are the quick starts. I mean, what could be simpler than that? So guys, thank you so much for joining me today for my crazy show with 4 quick starts. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this ethnic genealogy. Enjoy your research. Happy ancestral hunting.